Over a half-century after he made his observations, our society remains riven with sectional conflicts and group animosities that a powerful and bipartisan elite perpetuate and profit from, financially and politically. Perversely, rising economic insecurity and ecological instability only further this dynamic. We are living amid a sea change in our social and economic systems, one akin to the Industrial Revolution of the 1800s. The increase in productivity enabled by new technologies, paired with a decrease in taxation of the wealthy, diminished funding for public services, and stagnant wages, has expanded inequality to previously unseen levels. According to a 2023 report by Oxfam, over the last decade, the top 1% captured half of all new wealth. And that trend is getting steeper. Between 2020 and 2021, that rarefied percentage of the population took home 63% of new wealth, as the bottom 90% gained a combined 10%. While a handful of billionaires can afford to take vanity flights to space and pay top dollar for well-stocked bunkers to ride out climate catastrophes, billions of people live in poverty on a collapsing planet, where forest fires rage and up to 1 million different species are on the verge of extinction. Sensing opportunity, those in power have responded to our era's calamities by further exploiting regular people's vulnerabilities, capitalizing on confusion and resentment, and scapegoating their victims in order to deflect blame away from themselves. The result is a resurgent global right wing, beholden to a corporate elite, steeped in misinformation and unabashed in their bigotry, with lines of antagonism sharpening around questions of race, religion, immigration status, gender, sexuality, and more. A right wing willing, for example, to spend over $50 million in 2022 on political advertisements attacking LGBTQ+ people, particularly trans children, in order to stir up hate and votes, and to performatively bus immigrants from red states to blue ones, with no concern for their well-being. Meanwhile, those who claim to represent the political center distinguish themselves by not being as extreme as this right-wing opposition, but they too use division in more subtle ways. For example, they pursue market-based solutions that deepen pre-existing social inequities, advocate for targeted or means-tested government policies that deem some people worthy and others unworthy of public assistance, and castigate activists for being unreasonable when they argue that safe space be made for members of marginalized groups. Whipped along by a strategy of divide and conquer, liberal democracies the world over appeared to be perpetually teetering on the edge of social and political disaster, with hard-won social progress being systematically undone. The premise of this book is simple. Shifting away from this tragic course requires the conscious cultivation of solidarity, an understudied concept that must be reclaimed from the history of social and political thought. Fundamentally, we understand solidarity as the recognition of our inherent interconnectedness, an attempt to build bonds of commonality across our differences. It is an ethos and spur to action rooted in the acknowledgement that our lives are intertwined. Intertwined, however, does not mean indistinguishable. Solidarity depends on difference, on recognizing that we are not all exactly alike, but that we can still come together and take collective action. It is not unity or sameness, but a way of connecting with others, forging new communities, developing shared visions, and building power to push for social change. Our actions, policies, and institutions are built on a foundation of concepts and ideas that too often go overlooked in everyday discourse, and yet have immense influence over our public and private lives. Solidarity, we believe, is a concept as fundamental to the possibility of democracy as its sisters, liberty and justice. And it is ever more relevant as we fight to make our democracy more egalitarian, sustainable, and pluralistic. But to say that solidarity is the cure to what ails us is the easy part. The challenge is acting on